Did you pursue this career since early on, or did it pull you somewhere along the way?
Well, I was in a fraternity in college at LSU, and I was working with a restaurant and bar that we were doing a social with a sorority. And the owner was mentioning that he was short a bartender. And I immediately said, well, I would love to try to bartend. And he was like, great, be here Thursday night. And the rest was history. So I started working in the restaurant in college at LSU.
Hello, welcome to Deep Current by Oceans. I'm your host, Keylor. This is the show built for people who actually run operations in hospitality and the leaders that make it all possible behind the scenes. Today, I'm joined by Patrick Shaheen. He's the VP of Operations at Ballard Brands. Welcome to the show, Pat.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Patrick, before we dive in, tell us about you and hospitality. Did you pursue this career since early on, or did it pull you somewhere along the way?
Well, I was in a fraternity in college at LSU, and I was working with a restaurant and bar that we were doing a social with a sorority. And the owner was mentioning that he was short a bartender. And I immediately said, well, I would love to try to bartend. And he was like, great, be here Thursday night. And the rest was history. So I started working in the restaurant in college at LSU, and I went on to open a restaurant in the French Quarter in New Orleans after I graduated from LSU. And that was my first construction to opening type of opening team member. Then I went on to work for a very large seafood restaurant chain here in Louisiana. And we opened a brand new restaurant in Birmingham, Alabama. That was my second opening. So I kind of got hooked there. And then I went on to work with Smoothie King. So I left the restaurant operations, went into franchising in 1996, started working with Smoothie King, and I just loved it. I loved being the road warrior. I loved being on the road, working with franchisees, opening stores, seeing every inch of this beautiful country. And so it was a passion of mine. And of course, the company loved that I loved being on the road. So it was a marriage made in heaven.
That's great. So I would love to learn more about Ballard Brands. Give us a feel for scale and team distribution and locations, everything there is to know about what projects go on there.
Well, our owners were Smoothie King franchisees and PJ's Coffee franchisees. They had about 7 PJ's Coffee locations and about 5 Smoothie King locations. I was their operations consultant at Smoothie King, so that's how we became business friends. And then we became good friends, and then we became family. And they sold their stores, their Smoothie King stores in North Carolina. They opened their stores in North Carolina. And they came back home and opened a franchise called Wow Cafe and Wingery. So they brought me on board as their director of operations for Wow Cafe and Wingery. That was in 2000. Then in 2008, they purchased the PJ's Coffee brand from Raven Brands. Raven Brands, if you're familiar, had Moe's Southwest Grill. They had Planet Smoothie. So they were a multi brand company. And so Martin Sprock, the owner, was selling off his brands. And they owned the PJ's Coffee at the time, and the Ballards were successful in gaining that brand from Martin. Once we became a multi-brand company, I became vice president of operations over both brands. I just led all aspects of the franchising from there. Everything I learned from Smoothie Kings and the operations, distribution, research and development, and everything that goes along with those.
Okay, that's an excellent picture that you're painting there, Pat. But I'd love to learn more about your specific role and what the day-to-day looks like today. And this is always a hard question to answer for a leader, because I often hear it varies from day to day and week to week. But still, right? I mean, if you're trying to describe what you're mostly busy with every week, tell me more.
Well, I've been with Ballard Brands for 20 years. We're talking about today, or are we talking about 10 years ago? We're talking about 20 years ago. It's very different. We've grown a lot. We have a lot more team members on board now than in the beginning. So where I was wearing 6 or 7 hats before, I'm only wearing 2 now. So that's a change for me. So that working with the team and building them up. So far, I've had 5 employees that I've mentored and brought up into leadership roles. So I'm very proud about that. On a day-to-day basis, today, we are mainly challenged with technology. And so our day to day is selling franchises. We train the franchisees when they come in. We go and open their stores to get their stores open and operated. And then we support them after they open. So that time frame can be 2 years, especially in the environment after COVID. Before it was about 13 months, sometimes 10 months or 11 months. But when COVID hit, from the time a franchisee signs on the dotted line to the time they open could be almost 2 years. So it's a long process. So I oversee today the training department and the research and development department, and I'm in charge of implementation. So anything that comes through that's going to be implemented at the store level, both for the franchisees and for our team at the store level, goes through me. And then we disseminate the information, put it all together, and make sure it's rolled out to the franchisees, both on the training side and on the implementation side. So my day to day in today's world is largely built around that, with technology wrapped around all of that. That's the mobile app, that's third party delivery, anything that has to do with revenue. Revenue coming in the store is very, very important. And the technology around that, a drive through menu board technology, as I mentioned, first party dispatch through our mobile app, a third party catering. That's a big one. So we've launched our catering program with Easy Cater 2 years ago. And so when that all wraps around into our POS system, all the things I just mentioned, that is the challenging part of it. It's making sure that everything is wrapped around and coming into our ecosystem through the POS system. And so we wake up every day trying to make sure that our franchisees don't feel the challenges around all that. We try to make things as seamless and as simple as possible for them so they can focus on the operations and the marketing of their stores and not have to spend time in the office trying to fix something with the mobile app, trying to figure out why a product dropped from their app or appeared on their app, or why a customer couldn't order something, or how they couldn't get into the app. So really our job is to make sure that they have the products they need, it's being delivered at the right price, they know how to make it and serve it, and they're able to use the technology around them to make their lives easy. It's a
That
it's a
that's a
it's an
lot.
interesting day. It's not boring.
Definitely. I mean, and there's so much to unpack there, Patrick. But I mean, if we were to bring it down to earth, even a little further than that, for example, let's say after we finish this podcast recording and you go on with your day, what does this really look like for you?
Well, I'm on the cusp of going to the Food on Demand conference next week, and so that's going to have a lot of vendors, a lot of our vendor partners that we're currently with. So we have a lot of meetings set up there, and then I'll be on stage where PJ's Coffee is receiving an award. So I'll be on stage in Dallas. And then I'm on a panel of experts on Wednesday on drive through technology, where the operations of our franchises are concerned. So our team is in the field, and then our leaders are in the office, and then we're making sure that everybody's where they need to be and the franchises are getting what they need. So my day is filled with the projects that I'm working on, the forward thinking projects, right? The forward thinking processes and technology and pieces and equipment. I met with the Turbo chef yesterday. We got a new product coming out in the fall, the banana Foster bite. So we had to program the Turbo Chef. So we had to go through the trial and balances of programming the new food item in the Turbo Chef, different to microwave and impingement and heat and time. And so we spent 4 hours working on that yesterday. So making sure that we have the file connected that we can send to the franchisees so they can download it on their jump drive, plug it into their Turbo Chefs, and upload the new recipe is paramount in how we're rolling out a new product. So that forward thinking is always top of mind. And then also the things that are coming at us in retrospect, issues that are happening. Why is this happening? Let me find out. Let me connect people. And so my day to day is largely built around that forward thinking projects, making sure we're aware of the new store openings that are coming up, making sure the franchisees that are coming in town are ready for their franchisee school. We have our franchise advisory council coming in for the in-person meeting in May. I oversee the franchise advisory council, so I've got to put the agenda together. I've got to make sure that our hotel rooms are all set up and ready to go, that they're all coming in and received properly, and the meeting goes off as planned. So there's a lot of planning and a lot of execution involved in my day, but I do it is wrapped around making sure that the team out in the field has everything they need. And that generally will come back to the leaders in the office if something's going on.
What is a part of the operation as a whole that you're very happy with right now, Pat? Like that you believe you have figured out or that the team has figured out and needs no more polishing?
Well, that's a tough question. Things that we have figured out. I would say before COVID, I thought we had everything figured out. I mean, it was very simple. Life was simple. Our distribution seemed perfect. The training, the team, the team members stayed with us for long periods of time, sometimes all through high school or college. During college and as we came out of, I mean, during COVID and as we came out of COVID, things changed a little bit, right? Our team members weren't staying with us for as long as possible. So we brought on resources to help with applications, right? With gaining applications, getting interviews, and things of that nature. Where we thought we had everything filled out and we were very comfortable and everything was working out very well. COVID and the post-COVID really threw everything. A monkey wrench into everything, especially distribution, how things are getting from point A to point B. Our employees that were leaving at a turn of a dime, to go to another company. I think everybody in our industry experienced that. And then I think that the economy, all right, the inflation put a lot of pressure. The increase in our build outs, right, went up by a couple $100,000. So, we're about $200,000 more to build out the same store we were building out pre-COVID. So everything what seemed like it was working perfectly, everything that seemed like it was going great, and we were very comfortable on how the processes were working, and the franchisees were receiving the message and they were executing perfectly. Kind of it all got turned on their heads. The interest rates for these loans for the store build outs on top of the store build outs being so expensive than they were before just doubled up, right? So you not only is it a couple $100,000 more to build a store out, but you're also your interest rate is 10, 11, 12%, right? It used to be 4 or 5, 6%. So it was kind of a double hit. So what we've been doing is we've been really trying to catch up and try to get back to that feeling that everything is working perfectly, that everything is where it needs to be. I think we're close. Our team members now are starting to stay with us for a long period of time. Everybody jumping around has kind of gotten behind us. The build outs are still expensive. Prices aren't coming down. Our vendor partners that raised their prices during the shortages and the supply chain emergencies, they didn't come down. I knew they wouldn't. They're publicly traded companies. They're not going to go up on their costs and then start to come back down. Everything I think is just remaining at the level that it was, and everybody's got to live with the new normal. Customer perception is difficult because our franchisees had to raise prices, and as we raised prices, our transaction counts came down. And so, if you take all this into account, it's very difficult to get to the place where you feel like you're feeling good about anything. Our mobile app, it didn't work out as well as we thought it was going to work out. So we're in the middle of looking and evaluating that. Where I think some things have gone well has been the third party delivery has really accelerated for us and for our coffee company. I'm surprised and happy that our third party delivery is gaining so much traction. When we talk about beverages, iced beverages, frozen beverages, hot coffee, you're worried that it's going to travel correctly. Everything seems to be going very well. Our beignets, our breakfast sandwiches are the number one sellers on the delivery platform. So where we thought coffee and frozen drinks and iced drinks were going to be difficult, it turns out that the food items are our highest selling items. So our beignets, our breakfast sandwiches, our pastries, which is great because those travel very well. So I'm very happy about that. That's going very well for us. Our catering is picking up. Easy Cater has been a great partner for us. So leaning on our vendor partners like DoorDash is a very strong partner for us. We meet almost weekly on Zoom calls. We have marketing and promotions and campaigns going with them. Uber Eats has been coming in and doing a great job as well. We have a very strong relationship with them, and even Grubhub. We've been meeting with Grubhub on a regular basis. So they've been really stepping up their game. And so their support really helps us feel comfortable with those things because our operations team can actually communicate directly with our national rep rather than having to go through me and then to our national rep, which is great. So there's a lot of fluid fluidity going involved in the operations with our delivery and our catering. So I would say that that's probably where that's a good point of being comfortable with the direction that that's going. Our POS company is also doing a very good job of stepping it up and becoming a stronger partner with integrations and making sure that things are easily coming in. We've got a big transition going on with them right now and changing platforms, and they're helping us through that as well. I'm on the customer advisory board for Square Block, who's our POS company. So I went to the customer advisory board meetings in New York. And we do quarterly Zoom calls with the other brands on the customer advisory. So that company, that POS company is listening to us and they're turning around and making changes. So I'm very comfortable with that. So I think our vendor relationships, our partners, both in the distribution and on the technology side, is going very well. I'd say that's probably where I'm feeling most comfortable.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack there. But I wanna go back to something you mentioned earlier that I found fascinating, and that has to do with the COVID piece. There are things that you can't control, right? The interest rates and the cost, and all of those things are beyond your control. But you said that before COVID, it took maybe 13 months to open a new store, and now it's closer to 2 years. Why is that? Tell me more.
Well, our concept relies a lot on the end cap, right? We're a drive-through company, we're a coffee company, we're a drive-through company. So the end cap on the shopping centers is really where we need to be and where we search, right? When COVID hit, everybody wanted the end cap. Everybody wanted the drive-through now. So many concepts of restaurants and QSR brands that weren't involved in drive-throughs, they were okay with the inline real estate, and they were fine with that. And that's what they did. Even the restaurants were in line, no problem. But then everybody started to look for drive-through once COVID hit, and all the real estate site selections after COVID. It was becoming very very difficult to find the end caps with the drive-through, and so finding the real estate in the site selection is the first step. That is took longer than usual because in order to find that end cap, everybody wanted it, everybody was taking it by the time you got it. By the time you got the negotiations, it was already gone. And so it took a long time for a franchisee to find the right spot because the end cap became much more in demand once COVID hit. Everybody recognized that the drive-throughs were all open before the inline stores were. And so they migrated to let's develop a drive-through program. And that's kind of where their progression went. So the drive-through end cap became much higher demand, which took a lot longer. Also, the financing took a lot longer. The where somebody would sign a franchise agreement, and the cost to build the store out would have been, let's just say, $500,000, and then by the time they found the site, did the LOI, signed the lease, started to get their loan together, put the pro forma together, got it in front of the bank. The build out wasn't $500,000 anymore. It was, 575, and the interest rate wasn't 6.5 anymore. It was, 9. So, you can slide that in and out of any time frame between, 2022 and 2025. And it just, all of that changed. It wasn't 575 anymore for a build out. It was, 650. And the interest rate wasn't 9% anymore. It was, 11.5. So by the time they got to their loan process and their pro forma was off. So they had to go back and revise their pro forma and then resubmit it to the bank. So it just kind of expanded between the site selection, the demand for the end cap drive-through, and the changes in the increase in the build out in the interest rates. It just prolonged it to where before they finally got to where everything was right and they were ready to start ordering all their product, bring it in and open, it just stretched out.
I don't want to focus only on the negative aspects, but they are also some of the most raw organic things that we can talk about on the show, and sometimes the most helpful for other people that are out there. So that is why I press that a little further. You also mentioned the mobile app, and that something didn't work out as you expected. What happened?
Well, we went from a very open loyalty program. You just put your phone number in, you're in. And so the baristas could manage the loyalty program from the POS. That caused a little bit of fraud. There was fraud going on, and we were concerned about the fraud. But we were also not able to communicate with our customers that way. We weren't able to live in a world where they would experience our brand, and we would be able to communicate with them, and with that open type of system. We weren't getting any information, no demographics. We were in a buy 9, get 1 free type of loyalty program with no extra tiers. It was a very simple simple mobile app. It worked. Everything worked great between the mobile app and our POS company, but our marketing department had no skin in the game. So we went to a company. It was a very large company, and it was more of a closed app. You had to log into the app to do anything. You had to log in to redeem your beverage, to interact with us, and us interact with them. And that was a big change. And I think it was a little too big. It was too big of a step. We should have went with the intermediaries. Of course, it's easy to look back and say, but it was a pretty big change. A lot of our older customers that don't do apps or aren't familiar with technology. I think it alienated a little bit of that. So we're in the process of making sure that we address that and we help them. And a lot of our resources were put in place to help all of our customers and to get used to this closed app. Make sure they're able to log in, make sure they're able to redeem a drink. And so that's been a big challenge for us. It's been about 13 months since we rolled out the new mobile app. Things are a little bit more streamlined, like, a little more calm than it was the first 4 or 5 months. But we would like to see a little more flexibility in how our customers are logging into the app. And so our app company is doing like a code to text. They're making sure that it's very easy for them to log in. It's not so closed. And so we're happy about the progress that we've made there. So we feel that the mobile app experience, we should be somewhere in that 20-30% of sales should be in our mobile app. Right now, we're only at about 12. And so I think that's below average standards, especially for a coffee concept. So our goal is to make sure we get to that 20-30% sales through the mobile app. And so that's what we're working on today.
But what are you doing to achieve that? What are the plans?
We have engaged a company that is going to help with our online ordering section. And so our mobile app company that we engaged last year will be taking care of our loyalty and gift card program. And then we have another company coming in taking the online ordering and customer experience side of things. That is actually happening in 5 days. We're launching our new online ordering customer experience. And so our customers will still log into the same mobile app because the loyalty and gift card is still owning the mobile app section. It's just that company is allowing this company to come in and execute the customer experience side of things. So they partnered together to make things better for us, which we really appreciate. And so this new company is going to take over the customer experience side of things on May 6th. And so we're very happy about that. Looking forward to it.
Great. Best of luck. Hopefully that goes really, really, really well.
Yep. Well, we put them together. They were great in recognizing an issue, a problem. They were open to helping us solve it. We had another company that was able to solve it. Everybody got together, made sure that it was solved, and then they all worked together to make it happen. So really, the technology world today with vendors working together, it's much different than it was 3 or 4 years ago, in my opinion. It's getting very strong, and so very happy about that.
And while we're on that topic of technology and vendor integration and interconnectedness, I mean, you seem to be having a good experience there. Like, and earlier you described how everything kind of stems out from the POS. And I'd love to ask you more about how you leverage the POS and why that is important for an operation to scale. Most hospitality leaders here will know how important a POS is, but they're all leveraging to different extents, right? And to different levels of maturity. And from what I've seen in the industry and talked to other leaders, interconnectedness is still a challenge for many of them. So in your case, what tools are you using? What's connected? What's talking to each other? And what's still not quite there yet?
Oh, man, that's a lot to unpack there. We have a history. Our POS company right now had placed us into a single menu entity, so a single account entity. The single account entity means we have one account in one menu, and our franchisees fall under us as users, let's just say. And so everything that happens from one menu. So somebody can make a change in the menu and we'll change it for everybody. And so it's very delicate. It's very important that that is locked down and only a couple of people can actually get in and do. I have the master password. And so our team is very cautious and to make sure that we are applying things to our POS at the appropriate rate. And Square, they help us tremendously every week to make sure that that's happening. Now we are starting the process of breaking that single menu down into individual different accounts. So all the franchisees are going to get their own merchant ID number. That's going to take it's about a 4.5 month process. Our POS company is going to fly their engineers to each store. And so we're going to do 2 stores per night. And they're going to help the franchisees break the single model and bring them into their own merchant ID, reconnect all of the apps, reconnect their printers, reconnect our mobile app and our inventory control app and our labor app and all those things. So it's a big project. And the technology companies, our vendor partners, our POS company is flying around the country to go to each of these stores so that at night they're there when that happens. And that's why it's taken 4.5 months to do 144 stores. So it's a lot to unpack there, but we are trying to transition from a single menu, single account entity to a multi-account entity so that our franchisees will be able to do the things that they need to do at that level, change their own prices, manage their own tax rates, connect to their own technology like their cameras in the store, things of that nature without having to come to us and get the secret magic password in order to connect everything and have us so involved in their POS management. Once that opens up, we've got a world of opportunities that are going on. So we just happen to be with a POS company that was the model and how they started when we started with them back in 2017. Other POS companies have the full suite already available to them. You've got your drive-through menu boards, your digital menu boards, your POS. You can have cameras, everything, your inventory control, your labor is all involved in one ecosystem. For those stores that are doing, $2 million a year, $2.5 million a year, 2.8, $3.2 million a year in AUV, that expense works, right? For our coffee shop that we have, our AUVs aren't at that level. So, having a POS company where we connect the different entities into the POS ourselves by forming relationships with these companies to come into our POS system, and then we have relationships with them. That's more of our model. That's more of our financial model in order to do that. Now that comes with a lot of planning and a lot of vendor partner management, but the financial model works in that scenario. So that's where we are today.
Would you say everything resides in the POS, or do you have other tools that are equally as important? And I know typically finance is handled separately, whatever platform you're using, and it's typically connected to the POS. But what else is important for these stores? What in technology wise, tools wise?
The customer experience is the most important thing for our stores. So how DoorDash is ordering and coming in and printing, for example, when DoorDash shows up and they're like, "Hey, I'm here for this order," and it didn't print, and they're like, "Well, it didn't print. We don't have a ticket for it." Okay, well then they show you on the phone. Okay, well here's the order. And they go, "Yep, that's an order. Yeah, it's for this." So they hurry up and get it made for them real quick, and they give it to them and let them go. Why didn't it print? Well, what happened? So we got to find out. They turn in a ticket and find out what happened. Our POS company, our vendor partners will go in. They'll dive in and look at the logs and to find out why didn't it print? What happened? When did it come in? When was the signal? When did it fire to the printer? Why didn't it fire to the printer? Those things are happening at 144 stores, and it happens from time to time. And getting down to that is extremely important because the franchisee is frustrated. They feel like they're gonna lose a customer if the customer is having a negative experience. It's taking too long for the DoorDash driver to get there because the order wasn't ready when he showed up because it didn't print. So I think that everything involved in the customer experience is the most important thing. Integration, orders coming in from customers, whether that's EasyCater, DoorDash, Uber Eats, whether that's through our mobile app. Catering is very important, like the EasyCater, because catering isn't something somebody could just walk up and, "Oh, look, I have an order." You can't do that with catering. Catering needs advanced notice, sometimes 24 hours. Just to schedule it, get it ready, make sure it's all cooked fresh, make sure you have the items in inventory. And so when somebody walks in and they have a $250 catering order ready, they think is ready, supposed to be ready. And they're like, "Well, we didn't know anything about it." That's probably the number one uh, uh, level of frustration for a franchisee or any restaurant owner when somebody walks in with a $250 order and it didn't print and they weren't aware of it. So getting that information to the store, getting that information to the manager, disseminating that down to the team, making sure that everybody's ready for that person to walk in or the DoorDash driver to deliver it to the office building or the event is extremely, extremely important. So everything that you mentioned about what is important, everything is about that customer experience. So I would say any technology that involves the customer experiencing the order pickup and consumption of our product is the most important thing in our playbook.
Quick digression, but is catering an important, meaningful part of revenue for these stores?
It is an important product revenue. We're only at about 1.5 to 2% of sales on catering, and we're trying to get to 10%. So we've got this 20-10-10 plan in place. So we want 20% mobile, 10% catering, 10% delivery. And so we're falling a little bit short of that right now, especially on the catering side. So our whole catering, of course, the caterer is going to be at the Food on Demand conference next week. So they own the whole half day on Tuesday. So we'll be there with them. And so making sure that our partnership with them is very strong, that our franchisees, the sites on Easy Cater, they also power our pjscoffee.com/catering site. So if you go to pjscoffee.com, you go to catering online, you see all the locations for PJ's Coffee. That's Easy Cater. Easy Cater powers them. So they power our pjscoffee.com site, and they also power, of course, their own easycater.com site. So we're ready to go. We're building better catering packages. Our logo packaging was dropped during COVID, like many concepts were, because the the suppliers could not keep up with the demand and the loss of the materials and the things that they were looking for. So they dropped a lot of logos. So we're just starting to get our logoed items back in place. We've been using, brown bags and regular, pastry boxes, just to make sure that we have the items, that we didn't have to chase them down and find them. And so that was very important, as well as the packaging. The packaging is very important around that as well. So I would say if we can get from 1.5 to 2% of catering to 10%, get our deliveries from, I think we're at like 8.5%, get that to 10%. Get our mobile app, I think we're at 12.5%, get that to 20%. We'll probably bring our average AUV up about $275,000 a year, just with no more transactions. Same transactions we have right now, just shifting from in-store to those three platforms will add about $275,000 a year to our AUV. Same number of customers, same transactions.
Why is that? I mean, I understand the push for the app because that's like you own it, and then all the revenue is yours, and then you're skipping like certain fees and things that obviously go into the third parties. Why is catering important? Why is that moving the needle on revenue?
It's the average check. The mobile app, the average check is higher than the POS. So the same person ordering from the mobile app is paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.50 to $1.75 more than when they walked in the store and ordered at the POS. So if you take that $1.75 and you multiply it times 5,000 transactions, in a month, and you take those percentages increase over, it's like 12.5 to 20, and you do that for all three platforms. Delivery is higher when folks are ordering through DoorDash and Uber Eats. They're spending a little bit more than when they come in the store and they order on the POS. And of course, catering, the average check for catering is like $225. So that's significant. So if you have 8-9 more percent of your sales having that kind of average check, over coming in and ordering it, it becomes very important. So it adds to the AUV, just the increase in the average check.
That's very interesting. Let's pivot for a moment to the franchisees. Pretend I'm a franchisee and you're trying to onboard me, and I'm already sold. I'm going into the process. What's the single most painful part for me to do today as a franchisee? As part of a set of brands, meaning what's the most manual, more time consuming thing that you kind of have to convince them, like, hey, this is the easiest way to do it? Or do you feel like everything is very seamless today for them? And let's say there's minor overhead involved.
Well, I would say that employee retention and training is very important. High focus on that, and local store marketing. So local store marketing and employee training, customer relations is the top priority. I feel that those that embrace local store marketing and training and customer relations find it very easy to do. Franchisees who aren't involved in that, who hire a manager and they aren't involved in their store, is probably a little bit more difficult. So being present in your store, being part of the operations, being the leader, the customers walk in, they know who the owner is. They feel good about the owner, saying hello to them, and being part of the community is the number one paramount for a successful franchise, I think, in any concept. And so the easeability of which a franchisee embraces that is where I feel like they either succeed or they don't succeed. So the more they embrace it, the more they have fun with it. They get out and do the events. They go out in the community. They do to go out to the schools. They're involved in their PTA. Now they're working with the different centers of influences around the area. They become mayor of their village. They're just getting to know everybody in the community because they're locals. Franchisees that buy franchises are locals in the community. They went to high school there. They probably may have went away to college but came back. They probably married somebody from the area, right? They're starting to have kids. And a lot of our franchisees see the kids that they work with, they graduate from high school, they go on to college. It's like losing their own kids. So when they go away to college, we see it all the time. They're having parties for the two people that are now leaving, going to college. They've got to hire new every summer. They got to hire new folks and get them all trained up because some of their team members are leaving to go to college. And so it's a family atmosphere, and embracing that is very important. And in some cases, it's easy for those that embrace it. But for those that aren't involved in their stores and they're not embracing that, they're just counting on kind of everything to be on autopilot, or they're just counting on like a manager to do everything. It becomes a little bit more difficult for that success rate. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
Well, it does, and that makes perfect sense because I mean that's one of those things about franchises that is very unique in this industry. And you hold control of certain things, but the others, I mean, they're up to the person that runs that particular franchise or that particular location, right? But is there something that is more operational? Like, for example, I don't know, just something that comes to mind. Is there something like, hey, this particular set of franchises never filed these reports on time. We have to constantly chase them, or is that something that's largely taken care of, and you really feel like they're mostly only focusing on the marketing piece? Because I'm just trying to understand operationally what it means to be a franchisee for Ballard Brands, for example, in this case.
Well, no, not a lot of forums. I think that we have a lot of our vendor partners are there for automated or help guidance with things like reporting, and as far as the labor department, as far as sell certificates to the distributors, hiring and firing for the labor department, and making sure that all the paperwork is filed with the local labor departments when you hire somebody, because you have a certain amount of time to tell them that you hired them, and you also have a certain amount of time to tell them when you fire them. You've got all the paperwork and documentation around that. So we try to set up vendor partners that help with that. So our preferred payroll company will take care of all that's automated, electronic file cabinet, direct connections to the labor department. So everything you do from hiring to retiring and everything in between goes through that company. You're welcome to do it yourself. If you want to try to do it, we'll help you as much as we can. But these vendor partners are there for them to make their life easier so they can concentrate on marketing. They can get out and be in their community. They're not sitting in the office trying to write checks and do payroll. That's not something that we want our franchisees to do. So when it comes to franchisees doing things that are like difficult to do or easy to do, if you follow the systems and our preferred vendors in the services that they have to offer that makes their life easier, then they can focus on the operations. They can focus on training. They can focus on customer relations. They can focus on local store marketing. And so that is there for them to be able to have that easier workflow on a day-to-day basis. Now, if they choose not to do a lot of the preferred vendors that we have, then yeah, they're probably going to struggle a little bit making sure that these forms are filled out and that everybody knows what's going on and they're turning in their sales tax. There's a company that does automated sales tax that integrates with our POS company. Every night they pull that little bit of sales tax that's in the report. It goes to their integration into a separate account. It doesn't mix with their operating account, which is huge because when you see your balance on your operating account, you got to think to yourself, okay, well, I got about like $4,000 or $5,000 of that sales taxes. I've got to keep in mind that that's not really all my money. Pulling this money out every night, and then they file and pay your sales tax for you for not very much money per month, like $55 a month. That's a fantastic. That really takes them out of the office and gets them out in the community, not having to, especially if you're new. If you're a franchisee and you buy a franchise, right? Because you don't have a lot of business experience. You're in the with us, right? You're with us, but it's your own business, but you're also with somebody. You have a partner with experience. So if you don't have experience in paying your sales tax, it could be very daunting. It could be, you could get behind, you could get in trouble. It could be a cash flow issue. Just this one service, being able to pull that out every night and have them file and pay for it for like $55 a month. I mean, it's like powerful stuff for somebody who's just learning operations, learning how to train new employees, learning how to go out and do local store marketing, building a brand in the city. I mean, we only have 144 stores. Most of our stores are in the South, right? So stores that are opening in New Jersey, they're opening in Maryland, they're opening in Kentucky, they're opening in Georgia. They're opening with one store in that town, and they bought a 3-pack or a 5-pack. They still have to build the brand. So no one really knows who PJ's Coffee is, at that time. So you have to work hard to build a brand in a town that nobody's ever heard of you before. Whereas if you open a store here in Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama, you yeah, everybody, oh, PJ's Coffee, yeah, no, great, yeah, oh, that's great, yeah, they'll go right away. So it's a little less of a lift when you come into a saturated market than when you go into a market where there's no stores, no one's ever heard of you, and you have to work at building the brand up. And so these automated vendor partners that are there to make their life easier really helps them get out in the community and keep them out of the office.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to learn, and that makes sense because that's also being on my mind. If you are a franchise owner, how much does this franchise support you with all of this overhead and admin work so that you can actually focus on the sales, which ultimately moves everybody's bottom line up and top line up. So that leads me to another question, which has to do with visibility. Back to you, Patrick, and your decision making abilities and processes, and not just you, I guess, the broader team that works behind making sure that all of this is successful. Use 144 stores is a lot. When you're trying to understand performance across the board or between stores, what does that look like? What information can you see at a glance? How real time is it? Tell me anything there is to know about visibility and reporting for such a large operation.
Well, that's a great question too. Again, it goes back to the ecosystem. Our ecosystem is our POS, and we choose to bring vendors in to integrate and connect with that POS, which they have to have access to and permission to in order to gain that visibility. Whereas other POS ecosystems have it all built in one. And so it's very difficult, and it has been very difficult for us to have that visibility on same store sales the way that our ecosystem was built. So we brought in a company that is integrated with our POS, and they're integrating with our labor management app. They're integrating with our inventory app. They're integrating with our accounting platform at the office. They're integrating with our social media app, where the star ratings, our social media company vendor partner that we have, like takes all of our social media star ratings and comments and put it into a dashboard. They bring it in. So this company is bringing that in. We have a customer feedback program that customers, when they come to our stores, they get a link for feedback. You go in and put your feedback in. You answer these questions. It gives a high, low ratings, 1 to 5 stars, and all that's coming in as well. And so this company, which we just launched in February, has brought all of these in and into a KPI dashboard and gives us daily visibility. We wake up in the morning, it's all there. So if you had asked me this, just a few months ago, the answer would have just been terrible. Really, it would have been terrible. But this company really came in and was able to, and it's very affordable as well, which is exciting. But they're able to take all of this integration in and build our platform, our dashboard, the way we want to see it. We're not done yet, which is just the beginning, because we're only into it for about, I think, 3 months now. And so the next step is to give our franchisees their dashboards. Now the franchisees will get their own KPI dashboard, and they'll be able to wake up in the morning. They'll be able to see all of these things come in into the one dashboard for them, rather than the logging into that and looking at that, logging into this one, looking at this one, logging into this, looking at this one. It's all going to come into their dashboard. That's kind of the next step. I think they're really excited about this. We're not there yet, and we're not ready to give them their dashboards and access. We still got things coming in. We're still working on a few things. So to answer your question, I would say that, this company has really changed the game for us when it comes to that perspective. And so we're really excited to see what the future holds with them.
Yeah, I also believe that that is the future, and for you to be able to spend more time doing all of this field work and conferences and talking to, you need to have the ability to make decisions more quickly. And it sounds like the insights might already be there. They just need to be organized in a way that makes sense to you. So we're coming toward the end of our time, Patrick, but I'd love to ask you this question. Is there anything in your bucket list today? Anything that's been sitting there for a while? And it sounds like it might be many things. But if you could fix one problem out of everything that's in there today, what would you love to just kind of snap out of existence?
It's a really good question. If I could snap my fingers, what would I change into or out of existence? That's a difficult question. We have so many things moving around. I would say distribution. I would say distribution. Right now, our distribution is splintered a little bit. We have a distributor that handles our Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida market. Then we have a whole nother distributor that handles all of our stores outside of that region. And then outside of that region, we have three platforms that do what the one distributor does here locally. And so our franchisees get our coffee from our roasting facility. They get their non-coffee dry goods from another facility in New Jersey that ships to our stores, and then they get all of their refrigerated and frozen goods from a broadline distributor. It works. They have all three platforms. They order away, and it comes right to their store. But it's very difficult to roll out LTO items and items and things of that nature when you have to make sure that everybody gets what they need, right? Through these different distribution channels. And so if I could snap my finger, I would have one distributor that's able to distribute to all the stores all at the same time, any product that we want, no matter what the movement is. That would be great. But if you open one store in New Jersey and you open one store in Kentucky, that broadline distributor can't bring in a whole pallet of every item that we have, and that's a minimum. I mean, these products aren't being delivered to these broadline distributors in 1, 2, 5, 10 boxes at a time. You have to order minimum. The trucks have to come in with pallets, right? And if it's frozen product or refrigerated product or dairy product or something of that nature, and it's not aseptic, I mean, you could and other. It's not proprietary, and other stores aren't really buying it, even though you lit it up on these order guides, then there's a potential of waste. So I guess if I could snap my fingers, yeah, that would be it. I would be a distributor, no matter what the movement is. That would have all of our products and delivered all of our stores anytime we wanted to. That would be great.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, Patrick, let me finish with a question personally, a personal question, just to kind of close here. But if you were in hospitality, what would you be doing for for a living today?
That's a good one. Oh, well, I was in pre-med at LSU, when I was in that bar and restaurant, and setting up that social with our fraternity and the sorority for the upcoming week. And I would say that if I wasn't standing in that room at that time with the owner of the restaurant, and he didn't mention that, and I didn't accept that offer and start to work in the restaurant that following 2 weeks, which launched my career into the restaurant operations industry. I probably would have continued on with my pre med work and just done something in the medical field.
That's very interesting. That's
Yeah,
very interesting. Well, there you go. So, Patrick, thank you once again for all of your answers. Honestly, this has been a great conversation. I love how you didn't sugarcoat anything and how you actually deliver so much detail into the good, the bad, and the ugly of something of this scale. That I thought that was very candid. I really, really enjoyed the conversation. Where can our listeners follow you and what you're doing, or the Ballard brands?
I don't know. I'm not a big follower. I should be stronger on LinkedIn. I should be stronger in a lot of areas. I tend to be the groundhog. If you know the Good to Great books series, I tend to be the groundhog. I stay behind the scenes and I give credit to my team as opposed to the fox, right? Which is in the Good to Great books. But I'm not really sure. Ballard Brands has Wow Cafe and Wingery and PJ's Coffee of New Orleans. I'm sure you can look us up online and read all about us.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Deep Current. Thank you, Patrick, for participating once again. If you're an operator in anything of what Patrick and I discussed here today resonated with you and you want to keep that conversation going, feel free to reach out. You can find us at oceansco.com or you may find me on LinkedIn. Until then, I'll see you next time.
Perfect. Thank you very much.